Hello, my name is Poemellow. I'm a digital artist who makes emotes, overlays, and simple PNG avatars for content creators. In this video, I wanted to share my process for creating a PNG avatar for a program called PNGTubeRemix. This is not so much a tutorial and just more showing my process and sharing my thoughts. So I'll only get to the features that will suit this particular character. I've used other programs before for avatars that vary in complexity and features, and I find this one to be kind of a middle ground. There's no facial tracking, so you don't need a webcam. Instead, it uses mouse tracking, which I find gives your characters a bit more movement and life, as opposed to the program I'm currently using for my avatar, PNGTuber. If you're looking for something even more simple, PNGTuber is a good way to go. PNGTubeRemix can require a lot more layers though, depending on how many moving parts you want. Let's look at this little guy as an example. I wanted to make him as simple as possible while thinking about what parts I'd like to have subtle motion with. So I knew I wanted his head to rotate separately from his body, and I wanted his ears and back legs and tail and also whiskers to move independently from the body. But they're also all parented to the body. To make this kitty, I used Clip Studio Paint Pro, which has nice brushes and blending tools. Once I made all the layers, I went through the process of exporting out all of the layers, making sure everything was labeled. Gotta label your layers. In total, I have 24 layers, which is not much compared to some of the intricate and detailed rigs I've seen other artists make. Let's make a new file for this avatar so we can take a look at each individual layer and then go through all the steps I went to get here. Okay, so we'll make a new avatar. We'll go new. And then we have to import all of our layers. This program refers to layers as sprites, so I'll refer to them as such. And we can import them two different ways. You can press this Add Sprite Plus button, which will add them all into your sprite list here. And then you can also add images here. So we select all of the layers in the folder that you have, and then they're going to be arranged not in the correct order when you import them in, so you want to arrange them by the proper hierarchy, which all of the background layers will be at the top of your sprite list, and all of the foreground layers will be at the bottom. So we can go through and fix this up so that they're in the correct order. In this avatar, I also made collar and a bell, just as an accessory, but we'll hide those for now. For the eye sprites, I have them separated out into left and right eye, and each eye has 4 parts to it. So there's the white of the eye, the iris and the pupil, which are one layer, and a shine, which is another layer, and then on top of that there's a lash layer as well. Because we want the pupils to move separately and the shine of the eye to stay stationary, because there's only going to be one point of light and it's going to hit the eye here, and the pupil will move around underneath of that. I've labeled my eyes a little bit differently, so my left eye will be on this right side and my right eye will be on the left side, only because I come from a 3D animation background, and when we label our body parts for a character, it's usually in the perspective of that character, so it's their left and right, not my left and right. It's a little bit confusing here for a 2D character, but I'm just used to that labeling convention. So we'll organize the eyes, the white of the eyes in the back, and then we'll have the blink layer as well on top. There's also a blink layer. lashes. Now that all the sprites are in the correct order, we can start connecting the sprites in the parenting hierarchy. So dragging the child sprite onto its parent sprite. Which sprites do I want to move with the head? Will be the eyes, the mouth, the ears, and whiskers. So we'll drag all of those onto the head. The head will be the parent, and then all these other ones will be the children. So I'll go ahead and drag all of these sprites onto the head layer to make them the child layer, and that way they're going to move along with the head when you use the motion tracking. The head is going to be attached to the body, so the body will be the parent for the head. The two back feet will be parented to the body as well. The tail will be parented to the body. And the ears are going to be parented to the head. Now everything looks a little bit out of order, only because we haven't played with the Z order, which is another layering convention for the sprites. So 0 will be our base, and then anything above will be on top, and anything below 0 will be below the main layer. So the body will have a 0, head a 0, ears will need to go behind the head, so we'll place them at -1. The feet are on top, so they're fine, and then tail we'll place behind the body at -1. We can take a look at the layers individually now and show you how I made them. So for the body, I needed to have a bit of space underneath of the layer so that when, say, the head rotates, it's gonna look okay. So I rounded this top part off, so it's like the back shoulders of the head. And then these are the back legs as well. And when these rotate, it's gonna show behind the back leg, and it's still gonna look okay. So now everything's in the correct Z order. We can go through and set the anchor point here for each layer. So the anchor point will be where you want the base of the rotation to start out. So for this head sprite, I want the rotation to be right on the neck. So if I hit Control, I can click to where I want the base of the rotation to be. So the anchor point will be here where the neck is. So when we have motion tracking movements, follow mouse movements, the rotation will be anchored here. And for the body, I'm going to set it down here, because if I want the body to move a little bit, I'll have it so that it's mainly flat on the ground where they're sitting. For the tail, I'm going to have the anchor point where it's attached to the body. Same with the feet, I'll have it where it's attached to the body. For the whiskers, we're going to have them attached to the side of the face, where we can have rotation on the whiskers. Ears also need to be connected to the head at an anchor point right here, right in the middle. I think is a good idea. Here, this one can be right there. So they're going to rotate as well, separate from the head. So I'll have them rotate at around this point here. So now that everything has the correct anchor points, we can go in and adjust the properties and movement settings and start giving motion. this character and tracking with the mouse. So for the body, I want to have just a slight bit of movement to make it look like the character is breathing a little bit. So we can give it some motion, a movement tab here. So I don't want it to move side to side. Moving left to right is the x-axis, and moving up and down will be the y-axis. So we're only going to be adjusting the height of the character and how they move vertically to make it look a little bit more like it's breathing. You can change the settings here, but this is the amplitude of the y-axis and the frequency. Amplitude is how high it is, and frequency is how fast it's going to move. So because we want it to be very, very subtle animation, we'll have it at fairly low settings. So I'm going to have it down to 0.3 frequency and how fast it is. So how fast you would normally breathe in and out. And then the amplitude, will lower this down so that it's very minimal. So maybe about 0.9. It's so subtle. Just because I don't want this cat to look like it's bobbing or hovering at all. And then to accentuate it a little bit, we can add a bit of a drag and stretch settings here. So we can maybe do this at like, we'll test it out at 19. And then the stretch we'll do to maybe like 3.5. Just a little squash and stretch. And then if we want this just to follow along with the mouse, so we can give it a mouse follow movement as well, but very, very minimal. So we can do, instead of using the X and Y range, which would make it like bob side to side or up and down, we're just going to be using the rotation. So I'll do it at a very low setting. We can do it at maybe like 9 or 8. And then we'll give it a slight amount of squish on the x-axis and squish on the y-axis as well. So when you move your mouse around, it's just going to be very, very minimal movement. The head movement can be a lot more than the body. So we can do a higher range, let's say on the X and Y axis as well, just a little bit for X, because we don't want it to move side to side too much. And up and down, maybe we can do like, we can give it a bit more. Let's see what 4 looks like. Just a little bit. Increase that a little bit. Yeah. And then rotation we'll definitely need. So we can increase that. Let's like drag this over and test it out. So it is quite subtle. We can maybe increase the rotation a bit. Say like 75. A bit better. And it also moves up and down just a little bit, but that doesn't need to move side to side at all. The rotation's pretty good. And then we can give it just a slight amount of squish vertically. Not too much. I don't want this character to look too squishy, even though it's a very squishable looking character. Now we can do maybe tail movement, just a little bit to make it look like it's moving slightly or bobbing a little bit with the body. We won't have it use a follow mouse. We don't need to do that because the body is also moving and the tail's attached to the body. But we can give it a wiggle, a little bit of a wiggle. we can add some wiggle physics in here. So very, very minimal. We'll change the frequency so that's quite low. We don't need the speed of the wiggle to be very high. Amplitude. Offset a little bit. Just a little amount so that it looks like it's moving slightly. Now we can do the feet as well. The feet will be on a rotation movement, not through mouse follow, but just through the regular rotation here. So we'll do goodness. So we'll set it very, very low. We'll do like maybe 0.2. Quite low. The rotation degree, we want it to be like we'll do -6. Lessen the rotation to like 0.02. Very, very, very subtle rotation. Not very much. Doesn't need to be very high. The character's right foot, we can also do the same settings. So -6.5, and then 2, just to give them both a slight bit of rotation. Looks pretty good so far. Now we can animate the eyes. We can do the left eye first. What we can do here is we can say which eyes are going to be the open eye and which eye is going to be the blink eye. So our should blink section here is disabled, but we can have this set to open eye. We're going to use all of this will be open eye. Pupil, shine, open eye. Lashes, open eye. And the blink will be closed eye. I'll turn that on. Closed eye, and then for the right eye, I'll say this one is open eye. And then on the blink, it'll be closed eye. And then we can go into miscellaneous and change the blink speed. So right now it's set to pretty low settings. Sometimes it takes a little while to activate, but you can see now that there's some blinking that can happen. So maybe increase blink speed and lower the chance of blinking so that it blinks a little bit more often. And then for the whiskers, we can animate those. Because we're not going to be using any physics properties for the character, like secondary movements when you rotate your head, we can just use follow mouse movements for these as well. But we won't do too much because we don't want to exaggerate it too far. We'll do like before the squish rotation. And then we'll also increase the rotation on its own. Maybe we'll do like 5. And then the frequency will be very low. So it'll be subtle. So on this cat's right whisker, you can see that it's subtly rotating, and it'll also squish and rotate just slightly with your mouse movement. And we'll do the same thing for the other whisker. So rotation degree was at 5. And this one was at 2. And then rotation amount 15. Squish 4. very subtle. And then we can do the ears as well. The left ear, we can give it like a regular rotation, degree of maybe say 6. And then we'll see what's the frequency. Very, very low. Just rotating on its own without motion tracking. Like that. But then we can add on top of that a mouse follow rotation. Say 1. Rotation of 1. You can give it just a little bit of squish. Lower the rotation a little bit. Okay, and then we'll do the other ear. Do it exactly the same way, so we get 96, and this one is 5, squish, rotation of 6. Yeah. Now we can do open mouth, closed mouth as well. So we do should talk properties. I have the closed mouth selected, so I'll make that closed mouth, and then open mouth. We'll select open mouth property, and so now when I'm talking, should show open mouth, closed mouth. You can adjust the open mouth, closed mouth settings as well. Under settings and in audio, you can play around with volume. So depending on your own volume, you'll have to change the settings. I can change it to increase the delay or control the sensitivity. So maybe we increase the sensitivity a little bit. Make sure that it's the volume's gonna be hitting this mark here. So if your mic records your audio a little bit lower, you might want to set this a little bit lower. But this is good for me, I think. For my regular volume, I think it just holds it for a few frames if you lower the delay. Okay, that's good. I like to save the best part for last, which in my opinion is rigging the eyes, so we can see how the pupils track with the mouse. In order to do that, we can adjust the X and Y range here in the mouse follow section. But to properly parent the eyes, you need to have the eye pupil parented to the white of the eye, so the back layer of the eye. And so we can do that to both of them. So we did the left eye, and then the right eye, we need to grab the pupil and drag it on top of the white of the eye. We can select the pupils and adjust the Y and X range here. And this will determine how far the pupil is going to look on either side. So we can set it to like maybe like 20 here. See how far it's gonna sit in the eye. Maybe 15. It's pretty good. You can see that the iris is moving outside of the white of the eye, and in order to fix that, you need to add a clipping setting to the parent. It looks a bit wonky right now, but what you can do here is go into properties and just click clip children, and it should clip the pupil inside the white of the eye. In order to do this, you need to have the child set to Z order 0, otherwise it won't work. So even if the white of the eye it's at 0. The child should also be at 0 as well. His eye is going crazy. Let's do the other eye so it doesn't look so crazy. We'll grab the right pupil and we can adjust the movement of the x-axis to 15. There we go. And then go into properties and click on the white of the eye and hit clip children. It should act as a mask and or a clipping mask and keep the pupil within the white of the eye, which is perfect. Now we can adjust the Y range, which is up and down. See how far we want it to go up. Let's do 15. Okay, 15. That's pretty good. Going down. And around. And then we'll go to the right side. And adjust this to 15 as well. There we go. You'll notice that I like to have my pupils set pointed inwards so they look a little bit more cross-eyed, just so that my characters have a better focal point, because I want them to be looking directly at you and not past you. It's called the magic triangle rule, so the focal point is a bit closer. I love this part. This looks so fun. And we'll keep the eye shine stationary. You can also give the mouth a slight illusion of parallax effect by giving it a mouth follow on the Y and X axis. Just very minimal. So if we have the mouth, we can do maybe like 2 on the X and Y, and it'll make it look as if it's moving in front of the head. It's a little bit more in the foreground. Okay, so we can do it with the closed mouth as well. Give it 2. So it moves together. And it's just slight movement, extra movement, following the cursor. Not too much, but it gives it a bit more of a 3D effect. You can do that with the eyes as well. If you wanted to do extreme, you might have to do some kind of clipping mask so that if the eyes move too far, like say the right eye moves too far to the right off of the face, you can clip the whole eye section onto the face layer so that it cuts out and you don't see the eye go past. And see, give the eye a range of 2. Just enough so that it's not going past the face. It's just a very subtle amount. And we'll do the same for the shine. 2. And the lash. 2. And the blink. I want to keep them all the same because they don't want the layers to move separately from each other. Except for the pupils. Alright, that's pretty good. And then we can do the same for the other eye. Just a movement of 2. And then do the shine. 2, 2. You can do a higher number, higher range. But I just want it to be very subtle. I don't want it to be too drastic. And the blink will also do 2. And then if you want, the mouth layer will be a little bit further in the foreground than the eyes. So you can do maybe a little bit higher number than the eyeballs. So let's say 4. Crazy. Do a little bit more movement. Slightly more movement than the eyes. Whoa. You can add the collar and bell in now if you want. And then we can add a little animation to the bell as well. So we can do, for the bell, we can give it a little bit of a rotation just on its own, but I think just a rotation for the mouse follow will work as well. First, we need to put the correct anchor point on it. And then we can increase the rotation here. We'll do rotation of 2. See how that looks. You can also just give it a slight rotation on its own as well. But that's just like an accessory that you can toggle on and off. You don't need it. You could add other states, so I can make little costumes for this character and add states to it. Or you could give this character like a bounce and add gravity to it. A bit of wobble, but we're gonna leave that alone. And then we can go into PNGTube mode. You can see what he looks like. And you can change the background color to, if you want to use chroma keying or green screen. I think green would work really well for this character because he doesn't have any green on him. So if you import this character into OBS, you need to add green screen chroma key feature to take out the background. So I find that the transparency doesn't usually work. It just makes it completely black. I would use a green screen with this character for sure. Probably not magenta. You could use blue as well. This would work as well, as long as the color is not in the character itself. If you're going to make a character for this program specifically, I'd keep in mind that you're going to have to use chroma key to color out the background. So when thinking about the color scheme of your character, you're going to have to omit the color that you're going to use as your background chroma key, just so that when you are using it in OBS, you're not going to have any transparent patches in your character. There's some other settings to keep in mind. If you have more than one monitor, you're going to need to select which monitor you're going to use this on. So keep that in mind. You can use it for all screens, or you can use it for the specific monitor you're using. And with that, this cat is complete. I hope you enjoyed seeing my process at making a PNG avatar. This is only the second character I've made in PNGTubeRemix, but I really love learning new ways to create avatars, and I'm happy to share my experience for those who are interested in making their own avatars. I don't know if this video was of any help, because I didn't get into much of the main features of this program. This is really only scratching the surface. There's much more to explore, and I hope to share more discoveries and learn more from the PNGTube community as well. Thank you for watching!